What up YouTube, it's Roger Klotz back at it again with another YouTube video. My last video like this got a lot of positivity, people like the style, so I'm gonna do it again. BMW just announced their full track ready HP4, basically just a carbon fiber version of everything that's on the HP4 already. And when I say carbon fiber everything, I mean literally carbon fiber everything, including the frame. Yes, the frame is carbon fiber, and to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of carbon fiber. I kinda call it the douche weave. And by saying that, I don't mean that it's a bad product, but people always seem to use it on the wrong type of vehicles. Carbon fiber is made for one of those things to kind of reduce weight as much as possible. Like yes, carbon fiber is lighter, but vinyl wrapping your car in carbon fiber doesn't make it any lighter, it just actually adds weight. Most people just do it because they think it looks cool, which is fine. But I think it's kind of ridiculous to put on a spoiler or a splitter or even a front fairing that's all carbon fiber in the idea that you're going to be saving weight. And yeah, you want to do it anyway, so you're trying to reduce as much weight as possible. That's a big thing. Maybe that's just a personal preference of mine. I don't think that exposed carbon fiber looks cool, mostly because it's super overplayed now. But those aren't the applications that I'm talking about. This whole frame is made out of carbon fiber and it weighs 17 pounds. That's less than a fat baby. My dog takes bigger shits than 17 pounds. So basically what the BMW HP4 RACE version is, basically the same type of bike you'd find on a MotoGP track. There's no blinkers, none of that street legal stuff is necessary on this bike because it's not street legal. Similar to the H2R, the H2R is a track only bike. You can't bring it on the street, I mean like legally. I mean, who's gonna stop you? It's an H2R. But unlike the H2 and the H2R, this bike actually looks good. Hell, if you could make tires out of carbon fiber, BMW would be like, let's wrap that shit, dog. So yeah, they have trimmed some weight with some carbon fiber, but it's the amount of weight that they've trimmed is pretty impressive. This bike weighs around 377 pounds with fuel. That's the nothing. To give you a better idea, the H2 weighs 477 pounds. 100 pounds more than this bike. Now let's break down comparisons. Now, if you're not into race bikes and you want a street-only version of this bike, then obviously this bike isn't for you. Just stick to the regular HP4. I think that has everything that's legal to go. The H2, which is a street-legal version of the H2R, makes about 310 horsepower and 115 foot-pounds of torque. That's crank horsepower, not wheel horsepower. This is where it gets kind of weird, right? Because they say the H2 was rated for about 310 horsepower, right, to the crank. And if you don't know anything about automotive stuff, you have what's called drivetrain loss. That between the drivetrain and the wheel, you will lose some of that horsepower before it translates onto the road. You could make 1 million crank horsepower, but if only 300 horsepower gets to the wheel, that 1 million doesn't mean dick. So that's why you have things called dynos or rolling roads to be able to test and see how much power it puts down to the wheel. So the stock dyno on an H2, which is the supercharged 1000cc version of basically, let's say, a Ninja ZX10R, puts down somewhere between 190 to 200 wheel horsepower. And I know every dyno is different, but that's just the general numbers that I've seen. And before you get all butthurt and comment, do some research. That's what the H2 puts down. The H2 is a little bit more, which is rated for like 360 something horsepower. We don't care about that right now. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. We are comparing a street legal supercharged 1000 versus a naturally aspirated track only bike. We'll get to that in a minute. Don't worry about that. It is kind of weird. So the bike is rated for 310 base horsepower and comes down to about 200 wheel horsepower. That means the bike loses over 100 horsepower through drivetrain loss. That number doesn't make sense. With cars, the general rule is 15%, and it varies a whole lot based on certain cars and how much they rate and underrate numbers. And bikes are generally less. But following the percentage rule, that's like 33% drivetrain loss, which is ridiculous. So that means one of two things. Either A, Kawasaki's totally overrating the horsepower that they say it makes to the crank, or B, they're detuning them a lot from the factory. Kawasaki's like, hey, we tested it at 310 horsepower, but we're selling it at like 250 horsepower. If I had to guess, they're totally downplaying the numbers that the bike makes, because 190 to 200, while is a very impressive number, is only about 10 to 15 less than what the ZX10s are making. I have a basically stock ZX10R. It's a 2011, made about 171 to the rear wheel, which is actually kind of low for a ZX10R. The newer ones are making anywhere between 180 to 190. And yes, I know every dyno's different. There's about 10 major factors that really kind of go into what a bike will make on a dyno or a car. Sea level, how hot it is, how cold it is, whether or not it's humid that day. There's just a bunch of factors that could change it, but really that margin is pretty small. So the fact that the H2s are only making 15 to 20 more horsepower with a supercharger on 20 PSI is kind of ridiculous. When you throw in a good exhaust and a tune, they make about 240 to the wheel, which is where the number should be. And again, like my Dodge Demon discussion, weight is a huge factor to this type of stuff. If you go look up 650 IB or IB, he actually has an H2, an R1, an S1000rr. The dude makes awesome videos and he races a lot. And you want to see the power difference between the two bikes, you can go and watch it there. But I've seen videos of S1000s keeping up with H2s. And that's where weight kind of makes a big play. Between the H2 and the 2015 HP4, there's about a 45-pound weight difference between the two. So because of that difference, it can keep up. But now the HP4 RACE version weighs 100 pounds less than what the H2 weighs, meaning that more than likely it will completely spank the H2. But Dan, the H2 is street legal! The S1000's not gonna be street legal. How can you compare the two? I wish my dad hugged me more. Well, you can't really compare the two because one of them's supercharged and the other one isn't. On top of that, carbon fiber, everything, 100-pound difference. I mean, the two bikes are in two different classes. One of them was made to go fast in a straight line. It's kind of hard to say that one bike is made specifically to go fast in a straight line, because all bikes are kind of meant to turn. That's the purpose of having a motorcycle. They take turns really, really good. So to say that one bike, like for instance the Busa, is made specifically to go in a straight line, it's kind of a hard argument to justify. Motorcycles are made to lean into turns. They're made to get down low and they're made to go fast. That's what bikes were built for, especially ones with a lot of power. So what about the H2R? The supercharged 360 something odd horsepower, blah, 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 makes a lot of horsepower, goes really, really fast. And I think anyone with good riding ability and, you know, proper knowledge will go with the BMW over the Ninja just because it is a BMW. And I mean that in a pretty respectful way. I mean, the fact that you can even compare a Kawasaki to a BMW is pretty cool. Kawasaki is a lot like Dodge when it comes to this type of stuff. And people kind of took me wrong in my Dodge Demon video. They thought that I was bashing Dodge. I kind of was bashing Dodge a little bit. But it's the attitude and how they carry themselves. Dodge is kind of like, I don't give a shit what you think, I'm Dodge. And that's how it's always been with Kawasaki as well. Suzuki came out with a 1300, Kawasaki came out with a 1400. Suck our dicks. Oh, Chevy came out with a 6.2 liter, 6.4 liter. No. Supercharged 6.2 liter. How much power does the Z06 make? I want more. I want way more than that. Jackson always thinks when I do these videos, I'm like yelling at him or something. He's a good boy. It's okay, I'm not talking to you. Go be a dog. And that's a cool way to think. If you really think about the attitude, it's a cool way to think. It's like, hey, fuck you, we're Dodge. Hey, fuck you, we're Kawasaki. Suzuki's in the background eating toothpaste somewhere, wearing flip-flops, a wife beater, and camouflage cargo shorts. And it's funny because I drive a Kawasaki, so I can kind of talk shit about them. But since I don't drive a Dodge, everyone thinks I'm a butthurt Chevy fan. Hey, I know that all stereotypes aren't true, all right? I don't wear jorts. It kind of is a funny stereotype that that's what Corvette owners wear because my dad has a Corvette. And that's what he wears. My dad is the most Corvette-owning looking dude in the world. But just like Dodge, it seems like Kawasaki always tries to stay one up on the competition, saying like, hey, oh, your bike is 1000 cc's, that's cute, let's put a supercharger on ours to make more power. I don't know if the stock internals can take that much boost. I want 20 PSI in the supercharger. 20 PSI! I want 20 PSI in the supercharger! I guess that's where he wants to sit now, that's fine. So it's kind of hard to compare this bike to other Japanese bikes because it's really not a comparison. There's not really a bike that is a direct competitor of it. So let's go with the other end of the spectrum and go like a more exotic. I think the 1299 Panigale S is a good comparison. I'm always super flip-floppity on Ducati's products. It's like one moment I really like their products and then the next moment I'm like, well, it's Ducati, whatever, who cares? And that's coming from an Italian. My mom would stab me if she heard me say that. The 1299 Panigale S weighs about 420 pounds.
Oh, 420, yeah.
It makes around 205 horsepower, which is cool and all. Like 205 horsepower, that's a lot of horsepower for a bike to make. But the real kicker is the amount of torque it makes. Because this is a V-shaped motor, it's all about torque. Inline motors are really good for making tons of power and revving really high. I think the R6 revs up to like 16,500 RPM. That's insane. And because of that, your power band is really up high. It takes you a lot to get into that power band because your torque figures are really low down the end. And that's why most leader bikes like ZX10s and CBRs don't really kick in until about 50 miles an hour. If you're on a leader bike and you're going below 5,000 RPM, it's like riding a dick. But with the V motors, all you have is torque. The 1299 makes 106 foot-pounds of torque. That's 23 more foot-pounds of torque than the HP4 makes. With the Panigale S, it only weighs 420 pounds. That's 43 pounds less than what the HP4 weighs. And if you ask anybody who knows anything about engines, that they'll say that torque is just as important, if not more important, than horsepower. Simply put, horsepower is how fast you're going. Torque is how fast you get there. You can have 1,000 horsepower in a car, but if you only make 100 foot-pounds of torque, it's going to take you forever to get as fast as you want to go. Having a vehicle with a lot of horsepower, but not having a lot of torque is like a bodybuilder who skips leg day. While yes, having big muscles or 1,000 horsepower looks good on paper, if you don't have the torque or the legs to back it up, there's not really much you can do. But that isn't the real kicker here. The real kicker is how much the Panigale costs. So a lot of you guys are going to lose your shit. So the Panigale S costs anywhere between $20,000 to $25,000 new, depending on which model you get or whatever. But there's two important factors about that number in this bike that make it worth that kind of money. Is that one, it's street legal. You've got blinkers, you got turn signals and whatnot. The HP4 Race Edition is going to cost $90,000 US. Fuck. To put that in perspective, the Dodge Demon is rumored to be $85,000. Yes, I found this number out after my video. I feel like that comparison's all fucky. Originally what I was going to say is that you can compare the two because they're both track dedicated vehicles, except one's street legal and costs less and is faster, but it's just not going to work out. But the HP4 will be another limited production vehicle. Car Throttle says 750. I've seen other websites saying that it's going to be 1,000. I don't know how many producers are going to be, but I'm going to stick with 750. And if you're sitting there thinking to yourself, like, God, I had this check written for $90,000 getting ready to buy this track-only bike that I probably will never be able to reach the full potential of because I'm just a regular old street Rossi. But don't worry, because here's what's really awesome about this. The best part about this is that they will be selling frames. According to BMW, they will be producing the frames for aftermarket consumers who want to build their bikes. So if you don't have $90,000 to spend on a full fairing race bike, you should still be able to buy the frame and build your own. And I think this is way cooler than going out and buying a track-only bike because you'll be able to build your own bike and it'll be street legal, I think? I don't really know. That brings up a new question for me because bikes are registered through their frames. So if BMW is producing all the HP4s as street-only bikes with the carbon fiber frame, will they be producing street versions of it? That's going to be interesting. The frame is all carbon fiber. It's 30% lighter than what the factory frame is. It makes you wonder if they're going to be producing a street legal version of the frame. And places are different like that. In Texas, you can get away with registering just about everything, so I'm not really concerned about it there. But for instance, dirt bikes come with a off-road use only title, meaning that you can't register it for on-road use. At least not here in Georgia. So that means if you buy a frame and the title comes with an off-road use only, then you won't be able to register it for road use, at least in most of the US. I think there's ways around it in Texas and Arizona. I think those are two states that are really, really lenient. You can basically put whatever you want on the road there. Like, you can register four-wheelers and shit. It's ridiculous. In theory, you could always just buy one of the HP4 street versions, put a fairing kit on it, and be good to go for the road. As long as it passes an inspection with headlights and blinkers and shit, you should be good to go. Because there are people who are converting the H2Rs over to street legal. And there's a lot of people who get butthurt at the idea of putting a bike like that on the road. They're like, it's too much power, you're gonna kill yourself. People get shot at grocery stores. Do you think that's gonna stop me from going to grocery stores? Not riding a bike on the road because you're afraid of what might happen is like not eating an apple because it'll be a core. It's like not drinking beer because you don't want a hangover. It doesn't make any sense. But that's just my 2 cents on the bike. I was a little bit more reserved with these opinions because everyone got so butthurt at my Dodge Demon video. I didn't think that video was going to get as many views as it did. And I've kind of crossed over that line again with the BMW, seeing how the BMW S1000rr is a lot like the GTR of cars. It's so ridden with fanboyism that I'm afraid to even talk about it, but fuck it, someone's going to do it. So just for shits and giggles, let's comment below to see what you like better. Do you like the Ninja H2R or do you like the BMW S1000rr HP4 RACE? Not that it matters, because probably neither you nor I will ever own one of them. Look at that. See that asshole sitting right there? His name's Jackson. You got no shame. Everyone's waiting for your video, Jackson. Are you excited about it? I keep talking to him, roll over. Jackson! Here it comes. Oh, he's jumped off. What is this? What are you, a Jeep? You doing some rock climbing there, buddy? Did I wake you up from your nap? On my bed? Well, excuse me, sir. Don't worry, Jackson's video is coming soon. Probably this week. I don't know.